Hi, my name is Vinney Todd Tolman or Vincent Todd Tolman, and I did have a death experience myself. Back in 2003, me and a really good friend of mine, we took a brand new supplement that was very popular and hot at the time, and we ordered it online and took it, and turned out it was toxic for both our bodies. We decided quickly to go to a restaurant to eat some food, and hopefully that would make us feel better. And we barely made it in. My buddy made it into the dining room and collapsed on one of the dining tables. He began to vomit, and the manager called 911, got him taken away, and he ended up coming out of the hospital the very next day totally fine. Meanwhile, my story is a bit different. I ended up dying. I went in the bathroom. I locked the door because it was a single-use bathroom. So I locked the door, I went in, and I too kind of lost my balance, fell to the ground the same way my buddy did in that booth. But as I did it, I fell onto my back. And when I fell onto my back and started to vomit, it made me aspirate or suffocate. And that is where my story takes quite an odd turn, where I get to see our real existence. And the very moment that this happened, I remember the room spinning and seeing just all darkness around me and being plunged into this cool, dark feeling and almost an electrical or electricity type feeling that I was plunged into. And almost instantly, I started to see a scene unfolding in front of me. And to me, it seemed like a movie. It seemed like a play. It didn't seem like it was real because I was observing it, but yet I was distant from it. And I was definitely the observer because where I was here where I was and not down there. And it is odd to say, but I didn't know it was my own body. I didn't know that what I was looking at was my own body. I thought that what I was looking at was a dead body, and it didn't look like me at that point. And I also was perceiving the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions of everybody in that building and in that little restaurant. I could feel and hear the thoughts of the manager and the worry that he had for the guy that had just been taken away in an ambulance that he didn't know. And, I'm hearing the thoughts of customers in the restaurant as well as the cook in the back. And I'm just aware of all these things. And it was very different. I kept thinking that this is such a weird way to see a movie, to be able to hear and understand everyone in the scene. And as this was happening, one of the customers kept trying to use the restroom, kept trying to get the locked door open. And after so many times, he approached the manager and said, "Hey, I think, someone might be in trouble in there." He kept hearing a phone ring. So the manager went over, knocked on the door, and opened the door and saw the dead body on the ground. At this point, they did call 911 again. They called the emergency services. They got emergency services there, a second team to respond. And as they responded, they did pronounce the body dead. They did some preliminary attempts to try to resuscitate the body or bring it back, but it didn't work. They knew that the body was long gone. It was actually starting to turn cold. It felt cold to them. Went ahead and proceeded to bag the body up. They put the body into a bag, zipped it up. They strapped it to an EMT or medical gurney, and they went ahead and pulled away from the scene to take this body and turn it into the medical examiner. And still at no point did it even dawn on me that what I was watching was my body. So I'm watching them pull away from the scene of this restaurant, and they get out on the main road. As they get onto that main road, instantly, right as they hit that road, I see a glow start to form around this brand new medic. He's sitting in the back of the ambulance. The two veteran medics are sitting in the front. But this rookie medic, his first week on the job, he literally started to glow around his heart area. And as I was witnessing this, I was just in awe. It was very powerful and very beautiful just to even perceive this light coming from him. And out of nowhere, I feel this very strong force come over my left shoulder where I am. I felt the velocity of something going over my shoulder, and I could perceive that energy actually hit that rookie medic right there in the heart space. And as it did, I heard very loudly, "This one's not dead." And I looked around to see where that voice came from. So did the rookie medic. He looked around, he didn't know where that voice came from. As a follow-up to that, he was looking over at the other two medics thinking maybe it's them that were trying to play a trick on me, and realized quickly that it wasn't them. And he didn't do anything. He did hear the message though. He knew he heard it. And that light was still there glowing around his heart. It started to expand and get bigger. And literally, instead of just glowing around his heart space, It went all the way to his waist, to above his head. He was literally glowing from the waist up, completely glowing of this golden light. And then for a second time, I felt this force go over my left shoulder. And I heard even louder this second time, "This one's not dead." Now, when that was said the second time, the medic, he knew he wanted to do something about this. So he went ahead and he undid a couple of straps on that body. He unzipped the zipper on the bag itself, the body bag, and he started feeling around. He started feeling around to see if he could get any sign of life, any pulse, any type of sign of life, and he didn't find anything. So he went ahead and he made a physical contact with the bone inside the leg. And when he made that contact, I felt an ignition or a spark. I felt a real strong spark of almost electricity or electrical spark between me and him. And I knew he felt it too. We both felt it instantly. And that's when I started to realize something really odd was going on, something that did involve me. And this rookie medic, the miracle of it to me at this point when he felt that spark, that was enough for him that he wanted to at least try some more to resuscitate this body. So he went ahead and began the process of attempting the resuscitation of this body. He started getting, forcing oxygen into the lung. He started the procedures that they typically do. As he did so, he hooked up a special machine that shocks the body to get the heart to start again. And this machine, it makes a loud alarm once you turn it on, and it gets ready to charge the body with electricity. As it does, this alarm going off, it made the other two medics stop what they were doing and look back and see what this rookie was doing in the back of the ambulance. When they saw this, they really started tearing into this and tearing him down, telling him, "Hey, you're going to get fired. This is illegal. You can't do this. This is a dead body. This is not an experiment. You need to stop." And he didn't. He went ahead and let that first round of shocks go. Nothing happened though. That first round of shocks didn't do anything. The second round of shocks, he went to a second round. They did get a single heartbeat, and then the monitor stayed flatlining or no heartbeat. But they got one single heartbeat on the second round of shocks, which that motivated him to get to the third round of shocks. When he got to the third round of shock, they got a steady and faint heartbeat. And to me, an added miracle to all of this, not just the miracle of this amazing rookie that followed this prompting or this feeling, this voice. This happened 1 block away from a hospital. So they were able to turn this body directly into the hospital and have a trauma team there waiting, ready to receive it. As this is all happening, I still, where I was not aware that what I was watching was me. Until this point, as they transferred the body from the ambulance into the hospital bed or the hospital gurney, as they were doing that transfer, the body was going into seizures, and it was flailing and moving all around. There was a lot of gross things coming out of the mouth and out of the body itself. As they were doing that, though, they realized they needed to strap the body down so that they could work on it. And they strapped the legs first, then they went and strapped the arms. As they strapped the right arm, no problem. But when they went to strap the left arm, I felt as if someone was strapping my left arm where I was sitting watching this all happen. I really felt someone was strapping my left arm. And I looked down to see how someone could be strapping my left arm where I was sitting. And what I saw was the left arm on the body itself. And I resisted, and I actually broke that strap that they were strapping the body with. They came back with a bigger second strap. It looked very much like a leg strap that they had put on the legs. And they put that on the arm, and I knew instantly that what I had been witnessing this whole time was me. At this point, it was an extremely scary place for me to be, because when you're witnessing something, it's secondary to you, it's outside of you. But now all of a sudden, everything I've been witnessing for a long time, because this was a very long time that I was witnessing this, I realized that I was an idiot. How could I not know that I was watching my own death this whole time? How could I not know that? And I just felt so dumb and such an idiot how I could not know that what I had been witnessing this whole time was my own death. And I started to allow these dark, fearful thoughts into my consciousness, into my mind space, my head space. And as I was having these negative thoughts, I started to see some of the negative things I had done, some of the negative influences I had had in my life. And I saw it from the fastest little glimpses, but I saw it from not just inside of me, but from inside the people that I affected. And as I started to feel like I was drowning in this fear and darkness, I began to feel this most beautiful warmth. Words literally can't describe this warmth that I felt. This pure, unconditional love started to pour over me. It felt like warm water being poured over my back. And I remember it was such a beautiful feeling that I wanted to know where it was coming from. And as I embraced this feeling, I started to now see in very quick flashes the good things that I had done, and that there was so much more good that I had ever done than ever bad. And not just that, I also saw the future things that I was going to be able to do. I saw the impact of my life, the ripple effect of my life, before and after my experience of death. And I turned my countenance behind me and perceived this man all dressed in white. He was wearing a white suit with like a white robe over his shoulders. He had a very long white beard. He had longer white hair around his shoulders, and he had very, very pink skin, just extremely pink skin, but pink skin that glistened like sand in the sun. It was just absolutely amazing just to be witness of his countenance, because he exuded unconditional love. Love I had never experienced in this world. Love that I knew I didn't deserve. Love that was so full of grace and so full of power. And that love, it permeated me. It cleansed me of all the little black holes that I had allowed to grow inside of me in this life, from trauma and from abuse, from harm that I had received. And as I'm experiencing this and feeling this tremendous feeling, thinking in my mind, this must be God. And the very next thing I hear almost a chuckle or a laughter in a loving way. And I hear, no, son, I'm not God. And I know it's this man talking to me. And I recognize that we're communicating with just thought. We don't use our mouth. Then I think the very follow-up thought is, well, if you're not God, then you must be Jesus. And again, in his glistening power, he just sat there and kind of chuckled and lovingly sent love towards me, helping me understand that he wasn't Jesus either, but who he was is my guide, that his name is Drake, and he's there to help facilitate or help me go where I want to go. So if I wanted to go back to where my body was and get back in my body, I could, but I could also go with him. And instantly I knew I didn't want to go back where that body was. Even looking back at that energy of what was going on around the body, it looked like hell. It really did, especially compared to this love, this tremendous love and power that was coming out of this gentleman. So I went ahead and I said, I want to go. I want to go with you. He again grinned and smiled and explained to me, well, that's perfect, because he's going to help me see what's next in my existence. And thus we began a journey. And he helped me understand that this journey, that it's not your typical journey from point A to point B, from one point in the universe to another point in the universe. We're going to be traveling to a much higher frequency, or a much higher understanding, a much higher form of energy that I had to become to be able to go where we were going to go. So he began this process of traveling, guiding, and helping me at the same time as lovingly educating me. And so I thought there must be a quick front door or back door or side door I could get directly into heaven, because I had everything I needed in my faith. And he smiled and lovingly showed me that there was so much more I didn't fully embrace or understand yet. Even in my Christianity, in my version of Christianity that I learned and was raised in, I wasn't fully embodied to what I needed to know. For me, I wasn't fully embodied to know what I needed to know to get where we were going to go. So he began this process of working me through these principles. Now he worked me through so many principles, but I break them down in my experience to 10 major principles. And it would take me hours and hours to go over each and every one of these principles. But as I went through this process, today I'll try to explain the basics of each one of them. The first thing he taught me is that I had to learn how to be truly authentic, to be myself no matter who I'm ever around. That my authentic version of myself is who I am, and not the different version I allow to be around certain friends, certain family, coworkers, and different aspects of who I allowed myself to be. And Drake helped me see that there's absolute beauty in authenticity. And in this life, we see the most authentic people are the very, very young and the very, very old. Because as you come in this world and as you leave this world, you don't care about what others think. So I began that process of being authentic and peeling away the different aspects and layers and personalities I'd allowed over the top of who I really was, to accept who I was. For weaknesses and in strengths, I accepted myself for who I was. And that brought me to understanding principle 2, which is fully understanding the reason that we're here. And the reason we are here is to learn. That's it. We're here to learn, to create, to embody love, and to use the power of love to create and to build relationships and creations. And that's what we're here to do. And that brings me to the third principle, which is love everyone. That because we are here to learn how to love, love is that third principle, and being able to truly, unconditionally love all people and all creation. All the beings, all the plants, the trees, the animals, all of creation is part of that energy of loving everyone. And Drake helped me gain a vision or grasp really how big the cosmos is, how big all of creation is, and how life persists and is not the rarity that we were taught it is. Life is everywhere in the universe, everywhere in the universe. And then it brings me to the fourth principle, which is listen to your inner voice. Listen to the built-in conscience or direction that we have directly from the Creator, from God, that we have a direct connection with God through our inside, through our holy temple, which is here between our two temples. That's our holy temple. And we have a sacred connection to the Creator there, if we will allow it. But first, we must recognize that it is there, and then begin the work of listening. And the more we listen, the stronger the voice. The less we listen, the more the voice disappears, the more the gut feeling or the conscience disappears for us. So it's important for us to understand that we have that inner voice, that's a possibility for us, for inner guidance, for answers to prayers, for direction when we have questions. And that brings me to the next principle, which is the fifth principle, which is, using technology responsibly. Understanding that inner voice can only be as strong as we allow it to be. And if we are so distracted with our daily access to technology, then our world, our universe will not even recognize that inner voice because we are so distracted that we must use it with limitation and with control, which leads us to the sixth principle, which is release prejudice. And me, myself, I felt that I was the least prejudiced person that I thought I knew. But what I didn't realize is I did have prejudice towards prejudiced people. And I myself had to release my own judgments of even prejudiced people and release that to understand that all creation is divine, even those who have the mistake of judging others and putting them down from insecurity. And that once we understand that process, that we can love beyond the prejudice of other people. And we can love the soul that exists, the piece of God that exists inside every single one of us. That's extremely important for us to grow. And that's the principle number 6 of releasing prejudice that I was taught. Then it brought me to principle number 7, which is exercise the power of creation. We're here, we're in the classroom, we can create. And it begins with our thoughts. Because our thoughts become our habits. Our habits become our actions. Our actions become our character and our destiny and the direction that we live our life. So it's very important that we start with our thoughts. And if we can think it, we can build it, we can create it. So control the thoughts. Choose what goes in your holy temple, because there is where the beginning of creation starts. And it brings us to principle number 8, which is avoid negative influences. Negative influences are everywhere, and they're part of technology, but they're also part of toxic environments and toxic relationships and toxic jobs, toxic schools, toxic relationships everywhere. It's important for us to avoid these negative influences and recognize when there is toxicity or negative energy around us, and call on God, call on the Creator to bring a barrier of protection between us and the negative energy. And that brings us to principle 9, which is understanding that there is a purpose to evil. For there to be an up, there has to be a down. So as long as we are constantly learning, even from our mistakes, we can turn our mistakes into blessings as long as we're learning. But there is absolute purpose in evil. There has to be evil for there to be good, because without evil, there is no good. Without good, there is no evil. We have to understand that there is a divine balance between the two. And it's our choices, starting with our thoughts, that we choose which direction we want our energy to go. And that led me to the last principle, which is know that we are all one. Every single one of us are creations of the Creator, that we are all one in creation. We are one in God's body or Creator's body, because we do carry that spark, that golden light of God within us. We can build that, strengthen that, and understand that all beings, all creations here carry that, and that to harm any other creation is to only harm God and ourselves. And once I fully embodied this, I actually started to see heaven and started to have a heaven experience where I saw us touching down on a very vast planet, a very vast space. And I got to experience the most beautiful trees, the most beautiful grass. And you feel this tremendous white light coming out of everything. I felt so strongly the presence of God there. As we touched down, I could feel and connect to God in this space. But God was showing up in everything there. And it was just a beautiful experience that I have a hard time explaining, because literally we don't have these colors. We don't have these smells. We don't have these sounds that I experienced there. But yet I want the world to know what's there for all of us. And as I'm experiencing all this, my guide Drake comes to me. And at this point, I know him really well because he worked me through these 10 principles, and it was really hard. Every single one of these principles, as I understood it and embraced it, we were able to keep moving. And he brings me close and says, Vinney, this is going to be very hard, but it's going to be worth it. And he brings me in and gives me a hug. And there, hugs are different. Hugs are very, very different there, because there, you're not trapped in the physical form or in the third dimensional form. You're physical there, but you're more energy than you are low density carbon like you are here. So as we brought our two energetic bodies together, we came together as one in this hug. And as we did, both our light came together. His light and my light came together and expanded. And it's so beautiful because the light of the two of us was 4 times brighter than the light of the single, of the individual. And I learned a very powerful principle in that when we come together in love, we become 4 times stronger than we could ever become on our own. And that's only if 2 come together in love. And as it came over me, I started to actually hear a special prayer that was being given to my body. Well, meanwhile, while I'm here traveling and I'm going to heaven, I'd been dead and revived and now in a coma for 3 days. And my brother was down on earth. He was giving my body this special prayer. And as he did, this 3rd night that I was in this coma, he blessed that I would be made whole and that I would be okay. And as he closed that prayer, the love that my brother had for me forced me, took my agency away, because that prayer was stronger than even my agency. And that love that he felt and that I felt for him, it forced me back to my body and forced me into the hardest experience I've ever had in my life. And yes, the hardest experience was coming back from heaven, because once you're there, you don't want to come back to this. And that's understandable for those who have been there. They understand that. And I woke up, I felt fine. I pulled all the tubes out of me. I stayed for a good almost 6 full hours, signing paperwork, doing tests, test after test after test after test. They wanted to test everything. And fast forward, this entered the hardest part of my life, and trying to go back to a quote unquote normal life of working and trying to find normal worldly happiness, or earthly happiness, not worldly, but earthly happiness. And I just wasn't finding it in anything. And I kept hearing my guide's voice. I kept hearing Drake tell me, this is going to be really hard, but it's going to be worth it. And fast forward, almost 3 months later, it did begin to become worth it. I met the love of my life. I met my earth angel. Her name is Andrea, and I could see literally heaven's light coming from her eyes. What I've done since is I've really tried, am I perfect? No way, shape, or form, but I have really tried, and I continue to try to embody these principles every single day. And for many years, I've been sharing my experience. My experience is not for everybody, but for those who hear it and it resonates with them, it is for them. As sad as it is to say, I had to die to learn how to live because I wasn't living in a way that would bring me true happiness. True eternal happiness was not a part of my life until after I died. And since I died, I've learned a completely different way of living. And I love and I'm so grateful for my experience because it does make me a better person. And I want you to know, if you take anything from this experience, just know this, that you are a divine masterwork. And just like any divine masterwork, your value comes from your mistakes and your successes. That is what makes you the masterwork. And if there is anything that you take away from this, I wish it would be that, because we are important to our Creator. And I want to leave you with that and let you know that I'm sending you all love and extreme amounts of light and wishing for you a strong divine connection with your Creator, with your God who loves you so very much. Peace and love to you all.